All right, so he is your host of the Baseball Biz on Deck podcast. He's Mark Corbett, and along with his co-host Matt Germain, join me on the Cardy Show today. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Thanks for doing this.
Glad to be here, my friend.
Great to be here.
So, obviously, want to talk today about the Tampa Bay Rays, who historically, I'm just going to be honest, have been a pain in the ass for the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League East.
Yeah.
And with all the additions, the other four teams have made, Tampa obviously has made some big time subtractions, right? Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe, and we can go on, but it does not mean they're going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, I want to get your take, and Corby, I'll start with you. Your reaction to the offseason the Rays had.
Ooh, okay. Well, the best thing about the off season for me was the World Baseball Classic and getting to see some of our Rays perform there. And if you look beyond that, I one if you get down to what spring training is, Brent, I don't give any credit to anything pretty much that happens then. It's basically somebody trying to find out what these players are. They're bringing in people that will probably never see again the rest of this year, who will keep down on the farm or elsewhere. I wasn't overly impressed. I was impressed with the World Baseball Classic and seeing some of our boys and girls out there.
Matt, obviously, Brandon Lau leaves. That guy has had like 150 home runs against the Blue Jays in his career. And Josh Lowe obviously goes to the Angels. What does that vacant spot do for the Rays? I mean, obviously it doesn't help them by any means, but do they have guys to put in those spots?
They do, and they brought in a mix of guys, and I would say defensively, right off the bat, they improve at both positions. Right field and second base were really sore spots defensively, and both Josh and Brandon had a really hard time staying healthy and
Yeah.
being, high range guys, which the Rays historically have done much better when they have good range on the field. Manuel Margot would be an example in right field.
Mm.
And then guys they've had at second base when Brandon's been hurt have done better defensively. So they brought in Ben Williamson, Ryan Vilade, and they have a couple of other guys that can move around, like Taylor Walls when he returns, can also play some second base. And they've got some guys coming through the minors that are, they're supposed to be impactful guys that'll be able to handle second base. So I would say, it was time for a transition to take place. And the guys they brought in, Jacob Melton being one and Anderson Brito being the other, are both going to be impact guys, by mid of this year. So Jacob Melton should get here. He's supposed to be a very Josh Lowe type player, a 2030 style guy once he hits his stride. So he's very similar to what Josh brought to the table. And then you look at Anderson Brito, whenever you have a guy who's, a starter in double A, who can, model himself into a one to a three, depending on how high you want to say his ceiling is. Those are nice, big, juicy pieces to bring back. And then you don't forget the Shane Baz deal, brought back five huge pieces. So the Rays really had an off season where they showed, okay, we're playing for opening the stadium very strong whenever it gets built and where it gets built.
So speaking of the stadium, that's a great segue because Corby, I know you loved your time at George
Oh.
Steinbrenner Field last year, but the Trop is back, and I never thought I'd say, man, I'm so glad the Trop's back because that just looked painful. Your feelings as the Tampa Bay residents with the Trop coming back.
I'm grateful. I'll say that right now. I'll tell you that before the season began, Wade Boggs, who's a resident here and he played with the Rays, a Hall of Famer, he was saying to myself, "What do you think about being over at Steinbrenner?" He says, "It's going to be hell." And he was right. But I don't know how they did it. Everybody did a great job as far as the branding of that place, changing it seemingly almost overnight from all the Yankee stuff to Ray stuff. And I'd love to see a time delay on that. But being back at the Trop, I am happy. I'm glad they were smart enough to basically put 9 games before we have our first home game there. And
Yeah.
part of me, as a fan, I was like, but I feel like they want to make sure they got it right. So we'll see how it goes, brother. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm not going to be able to afford opening day tickets, but I'm going there.
Matt, I mean, it's interesting because when you look at the Trop, It's a house of horrors for a lot of teams, but it just feels like it's a home field advantage. But I really thought in 2025 that Steinbrenner would have been a home field advantage for the Rays, just being the minor league ballpark, the way the ball travels in Florida. What happened there, and what are you looking forward to this year coming back to the Trop?
Yeah, well, I think the defensive improvements the Rays have put in are really going to play nicely going back into the Trop, and a lot of the people who are coming back, like Shane McClanahan, for example, is
Yeah.
very used to being in that environment, so he's going to benefit from that in his return. And they also, you're talking about Chandler Simpson and a lot of guys with excessive range. They're really going to cover a lot of ground in that Trop environment. I've heard they've improved the stereo system and a lot of fan experiences as well in there. So I'm curious to see what the feedback is from them and what they decide to take with them whenever they build a new stadium.
So speaking of the new stadium, obviously there is a new ownership group now. Stu Sternberg is out. Corby, I mean, I were you guys looking forward to a new ownership group? Are you gonna miss Stu? Like, how are you feeling as the Tampa Bay guy here?
Well, I think everybody wanted change. It's like I think Yankees fans are keep looking forward to seeing when Aaron Judge leaves, but they don't know what they're going to get. Well, with now that we have Ken Babby and Zalupski, and I never can remember the third fella, there's a lot of hope. But some of this old song, I think Matt, you may have been the one that said it, same as the old boss, same as the new boss, or what if I vice versa. It's my hopes are high, but I got to tell you, Brent, we're looking at the same sort of situation. Owners today want cities and counties to pick up the tab for new stadiums. And I want those guys here. But as a taxpayer, do I want to put down 1.5 billion plus to have a stadium here to see my Rays? It's tough.
So yeah, my take is that Rays fans were spoiled with Stu Sternberg as an owner because of the front offices that he put in place and the winning that he brought in. I mean, we've talked about the managers that he brought in, just that alone. There are very few franchises in Major League Baseball that have had the consecutive successes of front offices and managers and coaches that the Rays have had. They've been the envy of the league. So when you're talking about it from an ownership point of view on that front, outstanding job by
Yeah.
Stu Sternberg. I don't think you'll find better across Major League Baseball. When it comes to marketing the team, atrocious. Could not be worse, except for the grit and glow. That'll be his lasting glory of marketing that says, wow, they really knocked it out of the park. And whoever, the new ownership gets to take that with them. But I think the new ownership group looked at the Rays and said, buying them for $1.7 billion is cheaper than paying for a new franchise as part of an expansion team.
Yeah.
That's what they looked at.
So to that point, obviously the biggest point of contention with this team is the stadium. You drive into St. Petersburg, you got to go past the bridge, you got to find parking, pay for parking, blah blah blah. Getting a spot in Tampa, is that a thing? But city council's like, no, get out. Where's the new stadium going to be, Mark?
If they build it, I truly believe it will be on the Del Mabry campus. There's just too much momentum going there. There's people on the council in Tampa who want it there. Now, that being said, if there is enough uproar, and I can tell you, reading comments and the news and anybody talking about this, there ain't much positive people saying much about what, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have it here. There are people who are saying, oh, we just gave 32 acres to billionaires and we're not getting anything back from it yet. And so there's that kind of mindset. Uh, Brent, I don't know what to say next on this. I think if they're going to build one here in Tampa, it will be built there. I'll just leave it at that.
So this is going to be the thing, right? We're now going into a strike season more than likely, right? And the point of contention for expansion was always been get Oakland figured out, get Tampa Bay figured out. Well, we got Oakland figured out. There's shovels in the ground in Las Vegas. Their ETA is 2028 if things continue to go well. And they're starting to extend guys, right? You saw it with Soderstrom, you saw it with Wilson. Now, Tampa, like Corby said, I mean, that stadium could be, in Tampa. Matt, could it be in Orlando? I mean, does St. Petersburg have a shot to get this stuff figured out?
If I was betting on Polymarket, all of my money would be going on Orlando. They have $1 billion secured, 1.5 total for the franchise, 1 billion for the stadium. It's already done, said, sealed, delivered. They just need the franchise to turn over. And remember, the new ownership group are real estate people. So getting that gifted land doesn't have to be a Major League Baseball stadium on it. They can develop it in multiple other ways. They just got gifted a business opportunity that they can turn into whatever it is they want.
True.
So not only do they get the chance to move to Orlando with a franchise and have $1 billion to work with there and have an indoor stadium. I don't know if you've seen the models from the Orlando Dreamers, but it's a pretty outstanding plan that they have in place. They've got the builders set up. Everything is, hard rock and stone. There are no question marks. So again, if you look at the expansion costs that would have been like, and you're in a competitive environment at that point, right? You're competing with Montreal, with Portland, with Nashville. So who knows where that price is going to be? Could be 2.5 billion just for the franchise. So in doing it this way, the new Rays ownership gets a franchise for 1.7 billion, poof, done. They know they're in a poisonous environment, so they asked for more than double the amount of money that Stu Sternberg had asked for from the same group of counselors and whatever. And not only that, but they didn't disperse who they were asking money from. They asked for one specific group. Okay, you give me 1.15 billion or else I'm walking, basically. And
Yeah.
we need the answer by July. And now I'm hearing that as they're being asked yesterday, this came out yesterday, as they're being asked questions, they're ignoring them. And they're saying the silence is deafening, right? In terms of not answering the questions on where this funding is going to come from, how it's going to work out, because I honestly don't think they care. I think they already have their minds set up to go to Orlando. It's either a put up or shut up from the Tampa side of things.
Yeah.
So really is a lot of pressure on Tampa right now to say, like, do we drink the poison or do we let it go?
It's weird because when I think of Tampa as a sports market, you have the Buccaneers, you have the Lightning, you don't have a basketball team. The basketball team's in Orlando. You put the baseball team in Orlando, can they support it? Will that draw? I mean, obviously Disney World's there, so maybe that helps.
The room tax in Orlando, you got a whole lot more coverage than you do in Tampa. So
Hmm.
I would say right there alone, you're gonna have more money to actually support that. And I think an argument can be made for Orlando simply on that, but there's a lot more too. There's trying to find something throughout the entire year, and Orlando has a lot, but I think the baseball would certainly bring more.
It's very, very interesting. So one last one. So this little thing I have up here on the screen, this lovely Tampa Bay. Our moment is now. Is that dead? Is that just a bunch of BS?
It,
Ah,
I think it's a little bit of a smoke screen because everything that I've been told about the surface that roof entails, right? First of all, it's never been
Hmm.
done.
Right.
Second of all, the overcosts predicted are already ballooning, and so whatever, one of the things that came out of the Stu Sternberg's agreement, and the reason they really pulled out, I believe, is because they were going to be liable for any cost overruns. So
mhm.
in this case, with this agreement, whoever, I don't know what the details are with the MOU, but whoever is in charge of the cost overruns would be biting off a heck of a lot and risking a lot of money that they wouldn't be able to control thereafter. But like I told Mark, if they ever decide to do it, they pony up the money, it will make Tampa an international staple because this is something
Yeah.
notable that will draw fans from everywhere. You can have watch parties for all the other leagues that are in that area. You become part of a fabric of, sports. So when you're talking about the lack of a hockey team in Orlando,
Hmm.
who knows? If Florida's been such a hit when it comes to hockey,
Yeah.
they
True.
could add a third team in Orlando and have that NBA team share an arena with that hockey team and then make themselves. So there's a little bit of competition going on between Orlando, Miami, and who's opening a new MLS stadium and Tampa. So there's this whole trifecta effect between the three.
It's fascinating stuff. I cannot wait to see how this boils out. Um, are we obviously we talked earlier about the American League East making all the four teams made adjustments and additions. Tampa Well, a lot of subtractions. You mentioned that they get McClanahan back. They signed Nick Martinez as well. Are we overlooking them? Do you guys feel that they're going to be in the basement of the American League East?
I'll tell you what I think with this whole deal is that it's the Rays are always going to be misjudged as a small market, no matter how good they are. So whether we suck or we're at the top 90%, we're going to be judged like that. And here's the other part of that too. Today I was looking at some five CBS experts, and they had Tampa in the bottom rung of the five in the Eastern Division and AL East rather. And I get that. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, but do we deserve it? Are we being overlooked? Eh, I think time will tell on this. I can't. I have a gentleman come into the museum today, and he says, "We're not going to have any more than 74 wins this year." He's dissing Martinez. He's going all over everything else, and it's. But there's a lot of anxious fans about this season. What
Where
do
do
you
you
think, Matt?
sit, Matt?
I would say that there's upside. There's definitely there is a case where, let's say, Jacob Melton comes up in June and really takes off. Because my beef with the Rays the last 3 years has been their outfield. They're
Mm.
out. They really have not been able to put together an above average outfield offensively, and it's really hindered them because their infield has always been steady and productive, and unless they focus on guys like Taylor Walls, which they're giving, I feel, too many at bats to. But that's just my own thing. But they'll be competitive and they'll be like in that 70 to 80 game range. And then, one winning streak at the right time can push them into that quote unquote contention. But the problem is that the Rays are on the fringes. So they bring back Jake Fraley, who they let go a long time ago because he often gets injured and he's only seen as a splits guy. Cedric Mullins is on the back end of his career. So, and we saw him make a bad play there defensively,
Yeah.
in the first game. There's just a lot of question marks and a lot of what I would call vanilla additions. But Steven Matz was a great ad for them. So you've got four guys in the rotation. If Shane McClanahan and Ian Seymour can balance out the rest of that rotation, when you have a good rotation, you can do a lot of damage in Major League Baseball. So I'm not putting it past them. Brody Hopkins has potential and he can come up from AAA and be a boost. Joe Boyle's another guy that's going to be in the rotation now because they have some injury issues. I mean, there is the chance, but the pen was is the big question mark now after the first game. I'm not going to jump off the bridge after the one game. But I think the question that I have in my head is, are people finding Kevin Cash and Kyle Snyder too predictable now? To the
Mm.
point where the game plan against them is easy to draw out because the last 3 years we've seen consecutive drop-offs and it seems like everybody's predicting another step down. So then what does the front office do from that point? How do they judge their own internal inner workings, or is it just a player and injury related issue?
Corby, if you were Kevin Cash and you wanted to get the most out of Junior Caminero, where are you putting him in the lineup? Because I'm not pitching to him if I don't have to. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the other day it was obvious they weren't going to pitch to him, and what the power that he has. I guess if we still get him walking early on, the man can still. So I think I would still have him up there, probably in the number three position, and see where he could go from there. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Brad, and it eats me alive. I really think you might as well. The other team should be penalized when they walk a player that much. When you got a great talent that people want to see, actually participate in the game. But I put
But
him in about third.
that happens, though. I mean, happens with Vladdy, happens with Judge, happens with Otani, right? It's just one of those things. I mean, Caminero with was it 45 and 110 last year, right? So I mean, obviously he's the man there. He is
Well,
definitely the man.
what was it yesterday? Was it Judge with? Oh yeah, the golden sombrero.
Yeah, love it.
Five, was it four or five?
It
Four is
was
a
four, I
sombrero.
think. Yeah.
Okay, four's a sombrero. Five's a golden sombrero. That's right. Four
I think
40.
strikeouts.
I would flip him in Aranda. So I would have Aranda hitting third, and I would have Junior hitting second after Yandy. That's the way that I think they get the most out of Junior's bat because Aranda is a big threat and can hit both sides of the plate.
Mm,
So he can actually do damage against lefties and righties. Jonathan Aranda behind Junior kind of settles that in. It's the same
yeah.
thing the Yankees do with Judge. So hit him second.
It makes sense. He's going to be one of those guys that you gotta put either in that 2 or 3 hole. And I agree with you, Matt. I'd put him in that 2 hole if I want the best out of them for sure. Matt, you mentioned some names: Jacob Melton, Ian Seymour. Who else are you keeping an eye on for 2026?
For 2026, there's Xavier Isaac. I know he dropped off the map a lot last year and he had brain surgery. That's going to
Wow,
slow you down, right?
just a
That,
bit.
that's one of those things. And I feel like he has a lot to prove.
Yeah.
And the other guy is Braden Taylor. I know there's something to be said for having some things to fight through in the minors. And Braden Taylor was really raked over the coals last year because his bat just for whatever reason he couldn't get the most out of it. And I think he started to question himself. And so I feel like what I saw this spring, he looks like he worked on a lot of things he needed to. And finally, Carson Williams. I feel
Mm.
like there's a gem there waiting to blossom. And people are saying he's going to be strikeout prone all the time. Yeah, the strikeouts are always going to be there. But I feel like he is the kind of guy that will work to get as much of it sorted out as he can and really come out of his shell once he does that. And I have him, I told Mark, as a future captain of the Rays. I just feel
Yeah.
like as a makeup guy, he's like a Dansby Swanson, basically, where he can really, be a positive cog in the lineup and on the team.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot. So this two-part question. First part is 2026 overall expectations is question one. And 1B is where's Yandy Diaz playing after July 31st? Cardi?
Well, I hope he's still with us. That's for sure. I loved watching him the other day, Yandy, with he sliding into first right there at the first part of the game, the excitement he brings to it. I don't know. I mean, the Rays, what are they willing to spend to keep top talent? And when do they say this top talent may be on the downslide? I'm not sure. What was the first part of the question, Britt? I'm sorry, I kind of
Oh, your
jumped.
2026 expectations for
Oh,
this team. Wins,
geez.
losses.
Yeah. I earlier I would have told you we would definitely be over 500, and I got to say that I'm really kind of weaning on that, and I
Hmm.
hope I'm wrong. I'm thinking maybe 72, even as low as that. That's
Me too.
yeah.
Woo, Matt.
Yeah, I'm with Mark. Like, I don't feel like this group. Well, first of all, I don't feel like the Rays will amp up the offense enough to mitigate a lot of the issues that they're going to have at pitching wise and in the pen. And I think well, your second question, I'll say like the Rays, I feel will be somewhere between 73 and 76 wins. That's what I have them at this year. If they go above that, I will be happily wrong, but that's just where I feel. And the best fit for Yandy Diaz after July would be the Kansas City Royals.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
feel like they need somebody to be a catalyst in their lineup and take the pressure off their younger guys, put him in front of Bobby Witt Jr. and let the rest of the lineup behind him fall into place, and then they become a much bigger playoff threat. And I think that one of their high-end catchers would be who I would see the Rays target in that trade. And I hope so because the Rays since the day I think Mike Zunino is the only guy they've ever had that had a WRC plus over 100, and I'm tired of watching the endless cogs of catchers come through, and I just want a franchise catcher for once. Like I feel that's one thing the Rays need to sort out once and for all.
I mean, if I were to hazard a guess, and I'm not an expert on the Rays, but I'm probably with you, Matt, probably around that 76 win mark. And I could see Yandy Diaz playing for the Mets. I mean, they don't have anybody playing first base. I mean, Jorge Polanco is great, but you got Bo Bichette playing third. You're gonna need somebody to bail him out from time to time.
Yeah.
That's all. That's where I sit. Mark, obviously, I had Lou Schiff on last week. He was telling you the great work he was doing with the women of baseball in Rockford, Illinois, friend of ours. And I see here you're still doing some great work at the Tampa Bay Baseball Museum. Do you want to talk to us about that and your work with the women's baseball leagues?
Yeah, it's been real exciting. I get to work at the Tampa Baseball Museum, and just last night we had was it Richie Garcia umpire? We had Roberto Hernandez. I had Joe Madden and Matt Joyce all there, and we had quite an event. It's nice to see the support that we're getting from a lot of the big leaguers. And the thing of it is, with over 100 players that have just come from Hillsborough County alone, that we can kind of tell some of their stories there. But when you get to the women in the game, that's when I love it because there is so much history that has not really been uncovered or shared, and there's so much potential. A big part of that right now is like the Women's Pro Baseball League. Last week, I went down to Fort Myers. I got to see some of their spring training for a couple of days, seeing like Ayami Sato pitching, seeing Kelsey Whitmore pitching, and the promise of what the talent that they can put out there. It's going to be huge. But it's going to be a rough first year. I mean, by that I mean there's only 4 teams, and while they're each named to a city, it's actually going to be they come to one place to play all those games. It's an exciting time. I think Justine Siegel and all the people that are working with it are going to do everything they can do to make it work. We're seeing what Dick's Sporting Goods come in and supporting it. I was sitting there in the stands talking with some of the other investors in the league. Those are those kind of positive vibe things you want to hear when you want to see something happen with a new league. So it's an exciting time for women's baseball, and we're doing some more research even in Tampa. You've got Mary Alvarez there. She was there last night as well. There's a lot of women in the game, and there's a lot of stories still to be told.
It's pretty exciting stuff, especially you mentioned the Women's Baseball League of Yami Sato, who actually pitched in Toronto last year, which was
Yeah.
awesome. So it's going to be something that people should definitely keep an eye on. Matt, I know you are not the host of the show, but what are you
Oh,
guys
he is.
working on for the Baseball Biz on Deck podcast?
Yeah, I have a few other irons in the fire. I've always thought that Canada needs a better representation of what its talents hold in terms of baseball. So I'm looking to start something that's based on Baseball Canada and is concentrated on the talents that are going through the minors because I do feel like I haven't done as good of a job as I want to in identifying and promoting those talents. And now that we're seeing like baseball, the World Baseball Classic showed Canada's talents
Yeah.
and a lot of those young players coming through. And some of them happen to be women, which I'll be concentrating on as well. So there'll be some crossover with what Mark's doing. And Mark, just an idea for you. You're starting from scratch. This is the beginning of their league. Write a book, have the chronicles of the league and just, first 10, 12 chapters can go out at the end of 2027. And I'm really excited about what that's going to do for baseball in general. Because once you have both genders in, they buy into the sport as well
Yeah.
as they buy into each league.
Yeah, well, maybe that's one thing too, Brent. We talk about as far as looking at women's leagues. You look at what's happened with the WNBA. You look at what's happening with soccer. All these things are evolving, and there's no reason for that not to happen. Also with baseball, it's just got to, sometimes it has to fight softball a little bit. But yeah, great times, great times.
Well, there's also, I mean, the content piece too, right? Now I was talking about a book, but I mean, you are a great podcaster and you got a great voice. So just put that out there if the women want some representation like on the podcast too, right?
Yeah,
Gonna have,
thank you.
he's
Yeah,
gonna have
well,
to come up with a home run call.
Yes, yes, I can't wait to hear it. Cannot wait to hear it. I was gonna ask one more. I mean, Matt, you brought up the WBC. Mark, you're in Dunedin. At TD Ballpark. How was that experience for you?
brother, it was great. Unfortunately, the day I went there, the humidity was like 90%, and it was just like, oh, after 2 innings, you see the ambulance just taking some of the older folks out. But I went there and got to see Dunedin, get to see the Blue Jays, the World Series contenders. And who did I see them play? I got to see him play Canada, the World Baseball Classic team. And the beauty of being able to see that in an enclosed place like TD Ballpark, it was wonderful. The folks that work there, they do a great job. But to be up close to those spring training games and certainly in Dunedin, it was a pleasure and a privilege.
That's awesome. Awesome. Hey guys, thanks so much for doing this. Where can people find the podcast?
Baseball Biz on Deck. You can go baseballbizondeck.com, or you can go anywhere. You go Spotify, you go to Apple, iHeart. If it's any place where there's a podcast, you'll find us there.
Yeah, really super appreciate it. Mark Corbett, Matt Germain, thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thank you, Brent. It's always a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Awesome. I think we got it. Stop share. I think we